Hi, I'm Annette Pasternak, the Stop Skin Picking Coach, and this is a talk that I'm giving tomorrow at the TLC conference. TLC Foundation for Body Focused Repetitive Behaviors, or BFRBs, are having their yearly conference, and by the time you are watching this video, probably it already happened, but I'm basically practicing the talk here beforehand. So I have put it by the time you see it on YouTube, and yeah, I hope you enjoy this. So the title is Belief and BFRBs. There's a quote: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So that's Henry Ford said that quite a while ago. And I am going to make the point that this is completely accurate. And that really one of the reasons, if not the biggest reason, it's so hard to stop picking or pulling or biting behaviors is because you've tried so many times to stop that you don't believe you can anymore. Our thoughts control everything, really. I always tell my clients when I teach about thoughts, if I'm hungry, I have the thought that I will go, get an apple. I have a bowl of fruit in the dining room, I'm gonna go get an apple. Okay, so that thought had to happen before I actually ate the apple. I don't just collide with an apple accidentally. That only happens with cookies. Just kidding. So I know this is a very simple example compared to beliefs creating action and things and circumstances, but it still applies. This is just a really easy to see example. I'm going to talk to you about belief and how you can increase your belief because it really does matter. And okay, so what are we going to go over? How belief affects the outcome, how whether you believe or how why you believe makes you able, and conversely, how when you don't believe, you're not going to be able. We talk about where beliefs come from, especially negative beliefs, why we think we can't change, and specifically what negative beliefs are holding you back. Really getting you to identify, to become aware and identify which ones are holding you back so that we can work to let go of those negative beliefs. You can't let go of them until you're really aware of them. And then how to cultivate positive thoughts and beliefs, which make us more powerful to create change and the changes that we want. Okay, so belief is related to expectation. Expectation changes everything. Now, this dog right now looks like he's expecting something, either just a look back from you, which creates oxytocin. This dog is expecting something. He's not just looking cute. So he's either, I'm guessing two things. He's expecting some food, or I think more likely this dog is just expecting you to look back at him or her and, just have an adoring eye meeting situation there. Maybe a pet too. But two different things would happen here based on whether this dog is expecting food or whether this dog is expecting some loving. So what happens is actually there are changes. There's physiological changes that will go along with what this dog believes will happen next. So if, he thinks that he's going to manipulate you into giving him a treat or something, or if it's dinner, around dinner time, he's going to be salivating. Alternatively, if he's just looking for some love, hoping that you'll gaze back at him and pet him and stuff, he's going to be producing some hormones like oxytocin, as are you, as you gaze at him or her. So This expectation is related to, we're going to talk a little bit about the placebo effect, what's known as placebo effect. So if this dog were, remember Pavlov's dog? Let's say this is Pavlov's dog. What Pavlov did is to ring a bell every time he gave the dog dinner for I don't know how many times. And then he didn't. But the dog salivated. And even when there was no bell, even when there was no food. There was no food there, but the bell rang. And so the dog learned to associate the bell with food and expect food when the bell rang. And so the bell rings and the dog produces saliva. Okay, so this is actually a little placebo type effect. Okay, so placebo effect, usually we're talking about medicine. So this nurse, she's got a lot of medicine there. She's got like either it's a very big syringe or a very small nurse. Nurse, you're spilling like a liter of precious medicine there. Watch it. So the placebo effect was known before World War II, but it was really written about much more right after because of a doctor that wrote a book. He was a doctor during World War II, and one day they ran out of morphine. So he was attending to soldiers that were very hurt, going to operate on them. And he ran out of morphine, but the nurse just filled the syringe up with saline and injected it into this soldier. And the soldier instantly reacted as if his pain was gone. And the doctor did the surgery. And this happened again and again. So the soldier just saw the syringe, and it's all about what you expect. The brain is just like an expectation machine. So they were expecting pain relief upon the injection. And so that's what happened. And research done since then, more recently, has shown that the body, when it expects, or the mind expects a painkiller, it actually makes the body produce its own. So the body is actually making its own opioids, endorphins, when it's getting a syringe full of what it thinks is a painkiller. Okay, and this happens not just with pain relief, but it happens with a whole bunch of other things. Have a whole bunch of other conditions have large placebo effects, including depression and pain relief are two of the biggest ones. So you believe you're getting some good medicine, and your body actually reacts to the fact that it's getting some good medicine. And part of the placebo effect is what you're expecting just from the setting and the people involved. So this doctor or nurse is, he's an angel, so you must be getting some good care. If you get, some therapy, she looks very into it. You're gonna, get some good care here. These are some good people. So just being in their presence and having their interest, being in a healing situation, a hospital, maybe your healing place, a hospital, or a therapist's office, this is going to have a positive healing effect on you, especially if the healer is taking time with you, is taking care, is making eye contact, is showing care and interest and all that. You're gonna get and belief. They're acting like they're gonna make you better. On the other hand, if they're not, for some reason, acting like they're going to make you better, you're not going to receive a placebo effect of healing. You're going to receive the opposite, what's known as a nocebo effect. So just a real, if they're very dismissive, for example, or if they don't believe in you, or have told you you're not going to get better or something, you usually believe it, right? And so this is one point I want to make right here is that, when you're going to someone for therapy, let's say for your body focused repetitive behavior, make sure you feel like there's somebody who believes in you, who understands you, who believes in you and believes that you can get better, because that's very important. We can't help but, take on their belief. Okay, so where did these beliefs come from? We all have a voice in our head. This little guy just looked like he was thinking, so use him to represent this voice. So we've got a voice in our head that's been talking at us nonstop since we were very small, right? Where does it come from? Well, it comes from what happens to us, what situations we're in, and what we make them mean about ourselves, how we interpret the world, basically. So the negative voices or the negative beliefs are going to come from either mistreatment, from parents, from teachers, from school, what's the word for school colleagues? School buddies, whatever, classmates, yeah. From misinterpretation, maybe, we tend to be very sensitive, people who have body focused repetitive behaviors, very emotionally sensitive, as well as physically. And somebody can look at us the wrong way sometimes, and we create a whole story in our head, so we misinterpret things. So that might not be a mistreatment, it might just be a misinterpretation, and it creates a whole set of thoughts in our head. And then it comes from habit, where we start having these same thoughts over and over again. We don't even probably realize where most of these negative thoughts came from in the first place. They've just become habitual, and they can be really damaging. So we actually assume this voice in our head, because it's the only thing in our head, talking. We just kind of, since it's always with us, we just assume it's true. But the reality is that all of us, all of the voices in all our heads are telling lies, basically the whole day long. So, and we have a lot of lies in common, and we have other lies that, you may have lies that are specific to you, but guaranteed you're telling yourself negative lies that are not helpful and are basically holding you back. So we want to examine what unhelpful thoughts, what unhelpful stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. So here are just a few examples. And I recommend that you actually pause this either before or after I list the examples and write down, brainstorm what other ones you have. So, this is really common. Like, I can't do whatever because something. The because is really optional. I mean, you can just write a list of your can'ts too, but the becauses could be extra enlightening. I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm weak, I'm unlovable. This is more related directly, like when I feel I have an urge to pick or pull, I have to do it, or I have to whatever. I have to be perfect. This is not helpful. I can't change. I can't help it. It's who I am. I've tried before. It doesn't work. Okay, so none of these things are helpful. There's a lot more. This is just kind of what I came up with pretty quickly. So, I just kind of like brainstormed some until I got to the bottom of the page. But you can, keep going and write the ones that are specific to you. Okay, so just specifically, like, why do we think, this is such a common thought that we'll never stop picking, we'll never stop pulling, things like this. Why do we think that? I mean, really, it's just because we have this bias to just believe the past, because it's the only thing we've known at this point. We don't know what the future will be, so we guess it's going to just be like the past. And it will be if we stick with our habitual thinking, if we don't do some more work to be aware, and some other work we'll talk about. So yeah, if you believe the past and you don't do anything different, yeah, the future should be the same. Another thing is we ask unhelpful questions. So, for example, if you're just asking yourself over and over again, why can't I stop? Or why do I do this? That's not super helpful. You might not find the answer, and you're just probably using it to beat yourself up. So, I would suggest to ask something like, how can I stop? Just keep asking that. Or what's the next step? Like, you only need to take one step at a time. So, what's the next step? And refuse to entertain the old unhelpful story, the unhelpful thoughts. If you are always saying to yourself, I hate myself, that is not helpful. That is very damaging. So you just have to nip that in the bud. Okay? Refuse to believe it. Choose to not believe it. Just choose to just stop, reinforcing these beliefs and create and repeat the new story habitually. A lot of people don't realize this. You can add thoughts. You can't necessarily stop thoughts from coming up in the moment, but in response to them, you can choose what you want to say to yourself. What do you want your voice to say? It's called self-talk. So you can, add. You can make up your own helpful story and tell yourself that. You have the power to change your stories. She's pretty cute. Become aware of that negative story and tell yourself a better story. Just 2 steps. All it takes is awareness and, consciously telling yourself something different. It's really that simple. And there are people that have undergone every possible horrible thing in this world. Somebody's undergone it and overcome it. So, whatever your reasons are, if you're holding on to limitations or, stories about why you can't do whatever, do whatever you like, I guarantee that somebody else has done that, at least for something similar or worse. So you can too. So how are you going to believe? So here's the tools we're going to talk about. First of all, when we're in a better mood, when we have a higher energy and a better mood, we're going to have better thoughts. We're going to have more positive thoughts and fewer negative thoughts. So really, it's important to do things like exercise and eat healthy. Those things really keep up your physical state and your mood. It could be like things like yoga and breathing exercises too. Sometimes meditation, these things also. But this is really key. For example, I don't do so well without exercise. If I don't have exercise, at least every few days, I just get really mentally lethargic and more depressed and more anxious and all that kind of stuff. It's really important for me to keep that up. And I know that's really common. We're gonna do a little thought inquiry, some affirmations, and affirmations don't work for everybody. There's been some research, but we can kind of use a similar thing, just tweak the affirmations into ones that you find more believable. If it's like, if you're saying you hate yourself all the time, then just changing it to I love myself. For some people, that's just not gonna work. Some people it will work. So go for it, try it. Action first, okay? So sometimes, you'll build belief little by little as you see positive results, as you get a little closer to what you think is impossible. So that's a great tool. You can borrow belief. Make sure that, if there's somebody else that's done this, that you can just, chances are they think that you can do it too. Why not? So just borrow their belief in yourself and surround yourself with belief. Okay, so here's the inquiry method. I'm not going to talk more about the exercise and that stuff. We just skipped over that. Okay, So here's this 4-step inquiry method from Byron Katie. Let's take the thought, I'm ugly. Okay, so question 1 is this true? Are you ugly? Or you ask yourself, am I ugly? And a lot of times your answer is still going to be yes, Yeah, I feel like it's true. I just said it. It's true, whatever. Okay, that's fine. If you had yes there, you ask question 2, can I be absolutely sure it's true? Or is some other explanation possible? So, sure, I'm ugly. Well, okay, I suppose just because I've heard somebody tell me I'm ugly or I feel ugly, those things don't necessarily mean I actually am ugly. Maybe it's, I feel ugly because, or I think I'm ugly because every time I look in the mirror, I'm looking in this super close at a thing that I think looks horrible, a scab that I picked at, or something like that. So these are all reasons where, you might be thinking you're ugly, but you can't be sure you are, right? So maybe you actually aren't. So you go on to question 3 then. What is it doing to me to have this thought that I'm not even sure is true? Okay, so here you're like, wow, what does it do to me to think I'm ugly? It makes me feel terrible, right? That's the answer to any negative thought or negative belief. Question 3 is, it makes me feel crummy in some way. It makes me feel bad. In addition, there might be other consequences. It might be making me pick more, for example, or other, you can think of some other things. And I really encourage you to go through these 4 steps with your other thoughts, other negative thoughts. And question 4 is just, can I see a reason to drop this thought? Yes, because the answer to question 3, because it's making me unhappy, and other possible reasons. Yeah, so we think, a lot of people are not aware that it's our own thoughts that are making us unhappy, that are making us feel bad. But this is absolutely true. It's all in our thoughts. So now that I can see a reason to drop the thought, I can use self-talk to tell myself something more helpful. So what do you want to say to yourself instead? Or what do I want to say to myself instead? Here's a couple examples. You could say, I love and accept myself. Well, let's go with the the ugly thing. So you could say, I'm pretty, or you could use your name. You could say, Annette, you're pretty, second person. Successful people talk to themselves in second person. So yeah, Annette, you're pretty. Or, you could say to yourself, Annette, that's not a good thing to focus on. I would like to tell myself, Annette, you're an awesome person, something like that. That might feel good. Or you can tell yourself, Annette, you are looking better and better every day. And you're going to, you're working on things. You're going to be more and more beautiful every day. So those are examples. Here, I just put a couple more examples, and we're going to do in the talk tomorrow, we're going to stop and do the particular negative thoughts that people there are having. So we'll turn those around. Okay. Sometimes, you probably noticed some of those answers I gave were really opposite of what I said at first, like, Annette, you're beautiful, or I'm beautiful, or whatever. Or, and some of them were a little more gentle, a little more believable. So if you I remember working with someone who she would try affirmations and they just weren't working until we got a little more gentle, like sneaky with them. So we used maybe statements. So for example, because this is more believable, maybe I can. So this was about stopping picking. Maybe I can, so I might as well take a step towards what I want. Or maybe I can, so I'm just going to do my best, right? These statements kind of put things to rest in your mind, the back and forth between like, I can do it, I can't do it, I'm terrible, yes, I'm gonna be amazing, no, I'm the worst, just take a neutral, believable thing here. And it kind of just allows you to just do it. Okay, here's another strategy for building belief. Action first. She doesn't look like she's ready to start, but we're going to tell her to start. Yeah, so this is all about just, if you don't feel like you can believe a thing, or if you don't feel like you can achieve a thing, but you want to, just figure out what the first step is and take a step, take some actions. And as those actions, have some results, which they will, especially if you're doing them consistently. And especially if they're the correct actions, but if they're not, you could try something else. But yeah, action will lead to more belief, step by step. So it's really important because, if you feel like you can't do something and you don't do anything, you don't take any action, then you're continually reinforcing that belief that you can't do it. But taking action really builds the belief. You could borrow belief. This is such a cute little library, by the way. I think I want to know where it's from. I just got it from the stock photos. But borrow belief. So, there are people who have done what you want to do, guaranteed. And, they're not all, if we're talking about stopping picking, for example, there are loads of people that have done it, or greatly reduced their picking, and they've just moved on with their lives, never to be heard from again. But we also have people like myself. I wrote a book, and I talk to you all now. And, I also interview, I think I've had 6 interviews with people who've really recovered greatly from their skin picking. And also some blog posts and different things. Yeah, and my book that I'm working on now is about other people's stories as well and the advice that they have for you. So you can borrow belief. Surround yourself with belief. So feed your mind positive things, spend time with positive people, seek out inspiring stories. This is kind of like what I was talking about already. But just doing it on a more consistent, persistent basis. So there's success stories on my YouTube. I'll try to link to that. I've got testimonials on my website that people find really inspiring. So just clients, that have finished working with me that are telling, about how well they did. Okay, I want to just finish by talking about a loss of belief or disbelief, which is discouragement. And this is the one reason really it's so hard to recover from picking or pulling or from any BFRB is that, you do it more one time or a few times in a row or something, and all of a sudden you get totally discouraged. So here's how you deal with it. Because when you get discouraged, this is really what happens, is that you get discouraged and then give up. So you've got to expect setbacks, okay? When you do expect some setbacks, it's going to prevent you from totally losing your belief in this process, in your belief in yourself, and from getting discouraged. Another thing to do is don't focus on the results. Don't focus so much on how your skin or hair looks, or even on how much picking or pulling you're doing. That is not helping. What you want to do is focus on the things that you can do, or that you do to get better each day. This is so helpful that it's why I created the Freedom Companion. So I will link as well to that video about that. And it's always in the YouTube descriptions too, a link to the Freedom Companions on Amazon. I have one for picking and one for pulling and one for nail biting. What's the number one thing you learned today? I'd like you to share it in the comments. Let's share the things that we learned, reinforce our learning by reading each other's comments and, really forming a community of support and belief in each other. It really helps. Okay, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.